Welcome to Sportsball Roundup. Now here's your hosts, Devin and Reese.
Thank you and welcome to Sportsball Roundup. I am Devin. Joining me is my co-host, Reese. Reese, we've had an kind of exciting time in NCAA football. Honestly, I want to get to it right away. Big Ten West, totally up for grabs. And some of these results I'm going to read off to you, kind of prove that, anything can happen in the Big Ten West. We'll start off with Iowa. They defeat Wisconsin 24-10. Iowa's defense came up big again. Iowa, now bowl eligible, had a pick six, had another pick six, had some special team plays. I mean, Reese, what did you see at the game? I think you were at the game, right?
I did attend that game.
Yeah, what did you see as you were watching that game that I guess you could take away from that?
I definitely saw the offense struggle again. It's become a regular thing now. Just all season long, the offense has struggled against, the littlest defenses even. Mm-hmm. I mean, they just can't get anything going. It's all on the defense. So, if they're going to win, the defense is going to have to play really good. Okay. And so far they have, and that's why we're bowl eligible. I'm just going to go out and say it. That's why we're bowl eligible, is because of our defense.
Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to what Iowa needs to do to get into Indianapolis later on, but sticking with the Big Ten, Purdue upsets Illinois. I mean, that was a game that I thought could go either way, because Purdue has been known in the past to upset really good Iowa teams, so their upset ability has always been there year after year, historically speaking. And I mean, yeah, Illinois, all they had to do, we'll talk more about the path to Indianapolis for the Big Ten West in a little bit, but part of the path was Illinois had to win out, and including Purdue. They just had to win out, including Purdue. And they didn't get that done. So it makes the path to the Big Ten championship that much more unclear for teams.
Yeah, definitely, because Illinois was running away with the Big Ten West. Like, they were up 2-3 games on everybody else. And then all of a sudden they hit this rough patch and they start to go downhill. And this was a really bad loss for them.
Yeah.
Because you win this game, you most likely take the Big Ten West. But you lose this game and you let everybody else back in.
Yep.
You let everybody else in the Big Ten West think that they can get it. And to be fair, they can. Like, there's 4-5 teams that are still in it because of this big loss. But Illinois still has to lose another game for most of these teams. And that's why this is a big loss, because they're at Michigan.
Right, which is honestly the biggest game in the Big Ten.
By far, yes.
This coming up week is Illinois at Michigan.
Yeah, there's playoff implications for both teams. Not maybe for Illinois, but definitely to get to the Big Ten championship for Illinois.
Yep.
And then on the other side, you have Michigan in the playoff right now.
Yep. Speaking of Michigan, they didn't just beat, they kind of destroyed Nebraska 34-3, making Nebraska ineligible for a bowl again this year. And they fired Scott Frost 3 games into the season?
I believe so.
Yeah, they fired him 3 games into the season, and they've just been, on a downhill spiral ever since. I mean, some would argue to say even before that, but I don't know. Just something's got to change in Nebraska for them to get back to where they used to be, or at least even contend in the Big Ten. They've been toward the bottom ever since they got to the Big Ten, and so something's got to give, man. I mean, they just need to change something. Moving on, Ohio State crushes Indiana, 56-14. Pretty much no surprises there. I think the biggest two games that aren't Big Ten would have been TCU and Texas. I didn't think that would be as close of a game as it ended up being. And then Alabama over Ole Miss. I thought that would be a close game, but I didn't expect what I saw there. Ole Miss is a really tough team. Kind of looking back at the top 10 predictions from last week, Reese, you could qualify to be in the committee because I'm looking down this list and you've got Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, TCU 4, Tennessee 5, LSU 6, USC 7, Alabama 8, Clemson 9, Utah 10. And that's exactly what happened this week in the top 10.
That's right. I just need to put my resume into the committee now and see if they accept.
Maybe I'll clip this part and send it to them. But
I don't know if they'll see it, but
no, they probably won't. It'll probably go in junk mail. But looking up and down the top 10 and their matchups, like we said before, Michigan versus Illinois, gonna be a huge game for both sides. I mean, Michigan fighting to stay undefeated and in playoff contention. Illinois fighting to keep somewhat control of the Big Ten West and maybe square off, again with, either Michigan or Ohio State in Indianapolis in the Big Ten Championship. TCU at Baylor, I think that's going to be a big game.
Every game that TCU plays down the stretch is going to be a big game because they're not a regular, I don't know how to say it. They're not a regular college football playoff team, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Because your college football playoff teams usually consist of SEC, Big Ten, possibly Pac-12, who knows, like a Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, all those. But to see TCU up there is new, is new. So we kind of have like a Cincinnati thing going on,
right?
And one loss could cut them out.
Oh, most definitely. They probably will be cut out. I mean, and it's also, now that you mention it, it's also rare to see, for starters, Alabama out.
Yeah.
And it's also rare to see just one SEC team in the top 4. I mean, usually it's, it's Alabama and then another SEC team, whether it be, Georgia or Clemson, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, this is uncharted waters right now with 2 Big Ten teams and just one SEC team. Other big matchups, you got USC versus at UCLA. That could be a really good matchup, and I think that USC will outlast them, but it could be a really close game, probably decided by a field goal.
Yeah, those rivalry games are always fun to watch.
Yeah, and then the last one is number 10 Utah at Oregon. Who's number
really
12?
Big game.
Yeah,
that's a really big game.
And I actually like Oregon in this matchup. I saw Oregon play last week, and they're a pretty impressive team. I think they're a really impressive team, and their offense is on fire. It's just their defense that's been struggling. I mean, they've given up an average of 34 points to ranked opponents so far this season. So if they can kind of rein that in a little bit, I think they have a shot at beating Utah. Now, as I mentioned, I want to get to the kind of the scenarios and the path to Indianapolis for the Big Ten West. Now, the Big Ten, just going back a little bit, the Big Ten East, it's either going to be Michigan or Ohio State, depending on that head-to-head matchup. What is it, the last game of the regular season?
Yeah. Yep. Last week.
Right. So that'll decide who represents the East in the Big Ten. I mean, the West is pretty wide open. I mean, here are the...
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
Right there. Wide open. It's definitely an understatement.
Here are, I guess, the possible scenarios. You got Illinois, and what they have to do is they have to win out, and Purdue has to lose. For Purdue, they have to win out, and Iowa has to lose.
Yep, because Iowa got them.
Yep. Minnesota to win out, and Purdue and Illinois have to lose. Iowa needs to win out with another Illinois loss. And you posed a good question. Who is in the best position to win the Big Ten West between those teams? I think it's Iowa, because they don't have to. And the only reason I say that is everybody has to win out and have a little bit of help. And I think that Illinois isn't going to win this week against Michigan. And Iowa can beat Minnesota. And Iowa can win out. I think Iowa can win out. And I don't think that, Illinois can beat Michigan. So I think Iowa has the easiest shot, because Minnesota, needs Purdue and Illinois to lose. And, Purdue needs an Iowa loss. And so I think that, they beat Wisconsin, so that helps. They can beat Nebraska any day of the week. So the only I guess, question mark left would be Minnesota, and I think they can do it. So I think that Iowa has the best shot at it. What do you think, Reese?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I do think Iowa has the best shot, but I mean they're too unpredictable. I mean, as an Iowa fan, they're just way too unpredictable. They can score 30 this week, and they can score 6 points this week. And I don't know what they're gonna do these next 2 weeks, if they're gonna come out and show what they got and win ball games. I mean, they've been able to do that, but it's mostly been their defense.
Yeah.
But just looking at this, I'm gonna say Purdue, because they already have their win over Illinois. Then all they need is for Iowa to slip up and not produce, which Iowa has shown that they can not produce on most occasions.
Okay. So, I mean, I can see that.
And they also have the easiest 2-week schedule left, with Northwestern at home and then Indiana, which we just saw the drubbing they took from Ohio State. So I think they got the easiest 2-week schedule left. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to win those 2 games. If they don't, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, especially like we said before, with the Illinois loss last week, has left the door wide open for, everybody else.
Yeah. And a lot of stuff has to happen, but even Wisconsin, who just took the loss from Iowa, still has a shot. They need a lot of stuff to happen, but they still got a shot.
Yeah,
it's just wide open, except, sorry, Nebraska fans, sorry.
I don't think that I've seen this before. Usually the Big Ten West is locked up pretty well by you know who's gonna win by this point, if not by next week.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that lockup was Illinois. Like Illinois had it locked up if they just could have won one more game, I think. If they could have won against Purdue, they had it locked up. They just needed to win against Purdue. And then I believe they would have had all the tiebreakers against everybody. Against Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin. I think they would have had them all. But then now that loss to Purdue takes them back to ground level with everybody else. And now it's going to be a fight to the death.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and just stay tuned. That's all I can say. Switching gears and heading to the NFL Week 10 review. First game in ever for the NFL in Germany. The Bucks beat the Seahawks 21-16, and Tampa Bay leads the NFC South at 5-5. I don't know, man. I think, just going on a little tangent, the Bucks if the season ended today, the Bucks would be in the playoffs as the division winner. But I've said this for years. I don't think that a team that is 500 or below deserves to be in the playoffs. I mean, I don't care if you won your division. If you're below 500, that means you're not a good team. If you're at or below 500, that means you're not a good team, and you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. And the fact that the division winner gets an automatic bid into the playoffs just kind of angers me, for that simple reason that we've had 500 teams get into the playoffs. And I don't think you should reward mediocrity. But I guess that's just me. Steelers beat the Saints 20-10. Titans beat the Broncos 17-10. Broncos were shut out in the second half. Russell Wilson not having the best of times in Denver. Dolphins take down the Browns 39-17. Tua with 3 touchdowns. Lions beat the Bears in the battle of the worst teams in the NFC North. Are they tied at the bottom, Reese?
No, the Lions are half game up at 3-6 just because they haven't had their bye yet. Basically, they haven't had their bye yet, so they're still in third.
Yeah, and so I guess the Lions, with that win, move into third place.
But you're a Packers fan, right?
Yep.
They're getting close. They're getting close to the Lions. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be a sad day. And the Lions had the head-to-head.
That's even worse.
That is even worse. And it'll be a sad day if the Packers end up in third place under the Lions. That'd be crazy. Vikings, what a game. I mean, the season's not over yet, but if the season ended today, that is the game of the season. I mean, just insanity on the field. I mean, Stephon Diggs, a former Viking, makes a heck of a catch. And then Jefferson turns around and is like, I see your catch, I'll raise you this catch, and makes a spectacular one-handed catch that honestly, to me, rivals the helmet catch in level of difficulty. And it's weird for me to be so, I guess, excited about a Vikings game, especially as a Packers fan, but that game was just insane. I mean, we kind of kid around, but it happened at noon, which is the height of Kirk Cousins' powers, it seems like. And just insane. I mean, it went into overtime, and I guess the Bills don't do well in overtime. They had a loss to Kansas City in the playoffs And now they're, can't get it done in overtime versus the Vikings. Josh Allen throws that crucial interception in overtime to seal it for the Vikings, and they're 8-1, just like the Eagles, who got stunned by the Commanders. So, I mean, this season has been so freaking crazy with teams that shouldn't win end up winning. Moving on a little bit, the Giants beat the Texans 24-16. Chiefs over Jags 27-17. Colts with the win over the Raiders 25-20. And Jeff Saturday, is that his first coaching win?
That is his first win as a head coach.
All right, and I'm going to pose, before we move on a little bit, I'm going to pose a question for you. Now, I know it's contingent on the rest of the season, but do you think Jeff Saturday, if he shows that he can win, maybe not win out the rest of the season, but win a good share of the rest of the games, do you think that he stays on as head coach, or do they find somebody in the offseason?
I'm pretty sure that he'll get another year, a full year to see what he can do, because he's just coming on, so it's not really, fair to see what he could do, the rest of the season, but give him another year, see if he can, try to get you back some games and bring him back for a full season and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, I don't know, who they'd get, anyway. So I think you're right. I think they keep Saturday on for the rest of this season and probably next season, and we'll see what happens there. The game that I want to touch on, obviously, is the Packers Cowboys game. And going into it, I had forgotten one thing. And so I was nervous, but I'd forgotten one crucial element in that the Packers own the Cowboys. I pulled up the record, of the history of the Cowboys versus the Packers, and since 2009, the Packers have won 9 of the last 10 meetings. Their only loss being 2016. That is a 90% win rate against the Cowboys. I mean, how outlandish is that? And if the trend continues, their next win should be in like 2024 or something like that. Is that what you said?
Yeah, because it's been 8 years in between their wins, right? So 2008, 2016, so 2024, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see on that. I mean, but if there was a year to beat the Packers, it would have been this year.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
And they couldn't get it done. So running through the standings real quick. As it stands right now, the East is controlled by the Dolphins, with the Jets and the Bills tied for second at 6-3, and the Patriots in fourth place at 5-4. The Ravens have the NFC North at 6-3. The Bengals are in second at 5-4, and the Browns and the Steelers are tied for last at 3-6. The South has the Titans at 6-3, the Colts at 4-5-1, then the Jags at 3-7, and the lowly Texans at 1-7-1. The West has the Chiefs at 7-2, Chargers at 5-4, Broncos at 3-6, and then the struggling Raiders at 2-9. Moving on to the NFC, the East has the probably the best conference, or the best division in the conference is the East, which has the Eagles at 8-1, the Giants at 7-2, Cowboys at 6-3, and the Commanders at 5-5. The North has the Vikings at 8-1, the Packers at 4-6, Lions at 3-6, and the Bears at 3-7. The South, probably the worst division, has the Buccaneers at 5-5, the Falcons at 4-6, Panthers at 3-7, and the Saints also at 3-7. And the West has the Seahawks at 6-4, the 49ers at 5-4, the Cardinals at 4-6, and the Rams at 3-6. Kind of looking forward now to the Week 11 matchups. We got the Titans at the Packers. It's going to be a pretty good game. Eagles at the Colts, Rams at Saints, Bears at Falcons, Commanders at Texans, the Jets at the Patriots, Lions at Giants, Panthers at Ravens, Browns at Bills, Raiders at Broncos, Cowboys at Vikings, Chiefs at Chargers, and then 49er at Cardinals. Oh, I forgot to mention the Bengals are at Pittsburgh. Anything come out and jump out at you, Reese, about next week's matchups?
Well, Thursday night football would definitely be interesting. With the Titans and Packers, this is another tough defensive test for Green Bay. Can they stop the Titans' running game? That's going to be interesting to see if they can. Let's see, the Jets and Patriots might be interesting, with the Jets being good this year. Cowboys and Vikings, that might be an interesting one to watch. See if the Vikings can keep their unbelievable season going. And Sunday night football, Chiefs and Chargers, that's always a good matchup. Kansas City against the LA Chargers, especially at the Chargers. That'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I do agree that that game usually is a rivalry game for whatever reason.
Yeah, it usually has that feel to it.
Yeah. Before we go, I want to give out the best bets for the week. This is the segment where I put my bets up against my coworker John Howren, and we see who wins. For John, he's got the Jets plus 3.5, the Giants -3, the Bengals on the money line, and the Eagles -6.5. Over on my side, I have the Jets as well, plus 3.5. I have the Panthers plus 12.5, the Eagles -6.5, and Green Bay -3. And I have a bonus bet with TCU -2.5. And just a quick programming note before we head out. Since it is Thanksgiving next week, we will not have a podcast. We will resume the following week. For Reese Webb, I am Devin Taylor. You have been listening to Sportsball Roundup. Have a great day.